Okay, this is a very special episode of Off Color, and it's actually gonna be our season finale. Okay, you guys, but don't be scared. We will be back January 2019 with hot takes on all the new racist shit that will have happened by then. So I'm sure it's not going anywhere over the holiday season. In fact, I expect there to be significantly more. In the meantime, you can go ahead and listen to some of our older episodes if you're interested in that, and tell your friends and family all about us, and subscribe, rate, reviews, yada, yada, yada. Is that good intro, James?
That's fantastic.
Thank you. Oh, speaking of support, my Indiegogo campaign for my new film project, Running With My Girls, ends on Saturday, November 24th. So I'm going to need that paper before the 24th. So go to Indiegogo.com and search Running With My Girls. And it's about women of color running for local office in Denver. Oh, good news for all present that one of my girls and friend of the show, Allan Lewis, did in fact win her race. And she is now the RTD District Board representative for District B. So be a part of history and back my project, please. I believe there's someone sitting at this table who has backed my project. And I'm going to go ahead and introduce her. This is Jameeka Lewis, famed Black historian and debunker of fake Black history. Welcome to the show, Jameeka.
Thank you for having me.
Now, Jameeka, why did you back my project?
Because you made me.
Yeah.
Like, no, she was literally sitting next to me and was like, "Here, I'm sending you the link." And I was like, "Okay, I'll look at it later." She was like, "No, look at it now." And then she was like, "I see you got my message." And I'm like, "Okay, let me put $10 on it."
Thank you. That's all it takes, you guys. $1 to $10 to support me. This is like a telethon and shit right now. But anyway, get on that. Okay.
Call in immediately.
I was under duress.
It was.
But no, it was,
I was strong arming her.
it was
just
pressure. But no, I was
honored
honored to support it. So
okay, well, thank you.
Pretty good idea.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Ian. Before I introduce our other two guests, I wanted to ask, James, do you have anything you want to promote?
No.
Word?
Why would I have some? I don't do anything.
You're supposed to promote. You're promoting our call-in hotline.
Oh, yes.
Danette, you're supposed to come sing the numbers.
What's the number again?
It's here.
867-530-9.
Ready? It's this number.
1-877 Cars for Kids.
No. Okay.
719-377-6216. 719-377-6219 is actually the real number. Don't laugh at my dyslexia.
Right.
Dyslexia. 719-377-6219. There you go.
All right. Thank you, Danette. All right. Give it up for Danette. Not Hollowell. Okay, so sorry. Anyway, that is our off-color hotline. You can leave us a message on there. So we do have some plans for 2019 around these questions and so on and so forth. But for this episode, because it's Thanksgiving and we're gathered around the table, I was hoping that maybe our guests would be interested in helping us to answer one of the questions that we got on the line. Is that okay?
Yeah.
All right, so before we do that, I'm going to do a quick intro. We already got the goddess, the powerful Jameeka Lewis, our Black history expert. Anything Jameeka says does not represent her and my employer.
oh yes.
Okay, good. So we have, for the first time on the mic, Ean Thomas Tafoya. And he is the treasurer for the Colorado Latino Forum. And he's also a community organizer and a dancer and a performer and an artist. And I learned all this by Googling you earlier. So if I left something out, I'm sorry. But how I ran into Ian was at Lisa Calderon's launch party for her mayoral bid. Lisa's one of my girls from Running With My Girls. And I thought he looked indigenous. And I was like, I need a Native person on our show. Because I'm rude like that.
She did come out pretty hard like that. And then she's like, "Are you?" And I was like, "Well, I studied Native American studies, and yes, I am Apache." She's like, "Awesome." Call him to sick to work.
Yeah, ooh, I hope no one in your work's listening.
No one at my work listens to this, I can assure you.
Okay, that's good. All right. So, but for real though, thank you for coming, sir. We really appreciate having you here. And we also have a returning guest, Black Clark Kent, aka Allan Tellis.
When did that start? 'Cause that's the third time you've called me Black Clark Kent, and that was like a month ago. Where did this come from?
It's because when you wear your glasses,
Oh, here we go.
and then you're
See,
like
I see them?
you're like a journalist, because you know you're like nerdy and stuff, right?
Yeah.
Like a journalist, but you're like real buff too. So I feel like it's a he's also a personal trainer if anyone
Yeah.
needs
Oh,
training.
Lord.
I used to
need
be.
that.
I don't have no time for that right now. I'm sorry.
Oh,
I just want to be real because like I used to give out personal training cards and people still call me because I did it for like 2 years. Like I was a personal trainer. Don't call me. It's like don't call me real. Like I'm gonna be like I can't do nothing for you. You know?
Okay, dang.
Oh, my intros are not improved in 1 year.
Still like push-ups every day.
Not improved.
Push-ups every day.
Yeah.
There's your personal training.
I'll charge you. I will charge somebody to say that for sure. $20. I'll tell you to do some push-ups. Facts.
Oh my goodness.
That is hilarious.
Whew. All right. Well, anyway, I'm sorry,
Okay.
Alan. I hope me calling you Black Clark Kent doesn't offend you.
It doesn't. It doesn't.
Okay, good.
It was.
You wanted to know why, but that is the reason, because that's
Okay.
like, you did remind me of that a little bit, because I'm like, oh my God, he's so fit. Okay, now, but I also want to say that Alan is also a future Pulitzer Prize winning journalist. I know that is in his future, and I'm really excited for you, because your writing is fantastic. I love your work at the Denverite, so thank you so much for your reporting on that stuff, okay? Sure. Check him out. Follow him on Twitter or whatever.
Yeah, follow me on Twitter for real. I
Yeah.
don't have enough
You have, like,
Twitter
no
followers.
followers.
Yeah, and I be feeling disrespected because my tweets are heat.
Yeah.
And I just feel like my tweets are absolutely fire. I feel like I don't have the right audience. I don't know because I don't mean to say that in an arrogant way. I really feel like it's not me. I feel like those are quality tweets. I need to step up my reach, my audience, because like I had a tweet that I thought was hilarious. No one paid attention to it.
Not even me.
Nobody, but it was like for young. It was like I was like D Rose, Lil Wayne, and racism all came back in their peak era. But you got to be from the D Rose era to get that joke. You know what I mean? Like D Rose had 50. Wayne was on the radio with the single. And racism is like 1968 style. Like I'm a nationalist. Like the president is on the stage. Like by the way, I'm a nationalist. And nobody, no love. Sorry, but I just feel like that's a quality.
So what's the Twitter handle?
Allan Tellis. Is it?
Okay.
Dude,
Search my
we're
name.
sneaking in plugs. Like, hit me on Instagram.
Oh,
Ian,
facts.
with an E. Mine's all about POV civics. So
Oh, snap.
you can check it all the meetings I'm in. Sometimes I review the shitty food that they put out for us, but it's mostly about just trying to understand that there's a lot of things going on. But if you're hungry, there's a lot of free food out there. All you got to do is sit through a PowerPoint presentation.
Big ass.
Word. That's actually a really good idea.
And
Okay.
you can follow me on Instagram too at JAYBELLUH, JBella. I have everything. My Instagram is so random.
I like
Shit,
it.
I'm hitting you on
I
Instagram
know.
right now.
Just do it.
do.
But I like it that Jameeka was like,
Love.
the reason I'm on Instagram is to follow
Cooking for Bae.
Cooking for Bae.
Oh my gosh, it's the worst. But like over the years, I mean, I have everything on there, like fitness, because I'm on like this weight loss journey. I've done really well. So
Oh, congratulations.
thank you.
Watch out.
That's why Rebecca was like, "Why aren't you eating my food?" I'm like, "Sorry."
Sorry, I put a plate of
It's
cookies
J.A.
right in front of you.
I know.
That's gonna take restraint.
Yeah,
But you can do it,
I
girl.
ate one.
Oh, yeah,
so
that's
versus
good.
9.
All
So
right.
that's
All right.
Are you
progress.
the hood Pocahontas?
No, I'm not.
It says J.
Are you?
I swear to God, we're on Thanksgiving.
It's
but look at this, look.
JAYBELLUH.
Oh,
That's
Jeanette,
so
you burned down my
hilarious.
house.
Am I the hood Pocahontas?
that's literally what came up under J. Bella.
Stop doing that, Danette.
No.
So if the first thing we're gonna do, since I do have one call-in question, so I thought we could listen to it.
Hi, I'm Caller. I'm a huge fan, and here's my question. I am a woman of European descent, and in the way that women do, I find other women's hair really cool, and I particularly think that natural hair on African American women is very attractive and just beautiful. But I feel super weird about just saying, hey, I like your hair. And I know that's really dumb, but it's something that I would say to other women if they recently changed their hairstyle. And I obviously know that you don't touch people's hair. You don't ask them any weirdo questions like if it's real or not. But I guess my question is, is it inappropriate to just compliment somebody's hair if that hair happens to be totally different than anything that your hair might ever be? So that's my dumb question. Thank you, and I hope that you answer it.
Well, these things are gonna get hairy. Hashtag mom joke.
She was saving that joke for a long time.
That was
You
really
guys,
awkward.
you guys suck.
I'm sorry.
I get this right
If you
now.
could have seen her face, you could just tell she'd practiced that 5 or 6
She was
times.
waiting for
You
it.
guys are jerks.
She's never gonna have us back on,
And
guys.
you'll probably be on every week. But anyway, so this question is a real one for me. This is something that I talk about frequently.
Right.
Because while I don't have what would be traditionally considered, I guess, natural hair, but it's the hair that's growing out of my head. But I change my hair a lot, and I do a lot of like extensions and pieces. Like I do a lot of stuff with it, and so I get a lot of comments that I wouldn't necessarily consider a compliment. But I think she's asking a question. I feel like everyone is so worried, right? I feels like. So I guess I'm just wondering, because I saw you guys kind of giggling a little bit when she was asking the question. And
Who was giggling?
I feel like the world just needs more compliments. What's wrong with that? Just-
Yeah, I don't.
If you think someone looks good, just tell them. What's wrong with that?
Right, I agree. I don't think she's in the wrong for complimenting, but don't be like, "Oh, your hair looks so ethnic today,"
Yeah. Well, I think.
or "Your hair doesn't look anything like mine." Like,
Yeah.
it's great. I mean, what? How do you take that?
I think you probably just want to say like, your hair looks
Your
nice,
hair
not
looks
be
nice.
like, yo, your wig looks great, and then be like, well, it's a weave, and then you're like really backstepping.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Your weave looks
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, the reason
Like,
Because you might know
Yeah.
it's all different kinds.
just be like, "I like your hair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that
It
style."
looks good on you.
Yeah.
And just leave it at that. Like, it's completely okay. You don't have to embellish.
You could text them 3 hot fire emojis too.
Fact.
You don't even gotta say it. You just like your hair is fire,
Like,
fire,
your
fire.
hair lit. Got
Just
it.
go up and ask for their number so you can text them emojis.
Ian got game.
Yeah, I was giggling because I feel like really to ask that question means you're being weird as shit. And I don't mean that in any type of disrespectful way, but it's like I couldn't imagine a scenario that would go wrong. Where somebody would walk up to me and be like, "I like your hair," and I'd be like, "No, that was weird. Why do you know?" Like you will probably there's probably some other things tipping people off that's making you uncomfortable because it's like you're very specific about like African American women. And there's probably some like type of shit you gotta unpack there about you and black women and their hair and your look and their look. You know, it's probably a lot of other weird shit going on besides you just being like, "I like your hair." Because if you normally walk up to somebody, if I walk up to bro and like I like your hair, he's not gonna be like, "That was kind of weird. Why did they say it like that?" You know what I'm saying? I bet there's a bunch of other issues.
I feel like if you walked up to me, you'd probably be like, low key, I like your hair. Because I feel like dudes don't come straight out being like, I like your hair, bro. But it's like, low key, I'm going to say this on the low.
I might tell my girl later, like, "Oh,
Like, dude's hair was 3 fire emojis. Like, it was. But I mean, she was so specific. She was
Yeah.
like, "I really like African American, natural." And I'm like, okay, that's me, like you described me.
Yeah.
So thank you for liking my hair, because I like it too.
Yeah.
Now, can we go on about the business? Like, what's next?
It really feel
Yeah.
like she needs to bump into more black women. That's what it sounds like. It sounds like
No, she doesn't.
She's.
I'm sorry.
I think it would help though, so it wouldn't feel so special or weird
Yeah.
to like
Yeah.
approach a black woman with natural and be like, "I like your hair." Like if you do that regularly, maybe it feels like, can I do this? Because it happens once every like couple
Yeah.
weeks for her or some shit.
Yeah.
But like that can be a daily experience if you want it to be. You know?
It seems like she's trying to find the line where she's like, "Well, I know I'm not supposed to touch it,
Yeah.
but like, what exactly? Like, how
Yeah.
far can I go
And the easiest way to
with this hair admiration thing? Like, okay, I can't touch it. That's a no, but I really like it. So what can I do?
Yeah.
And I feel like the
Closer
easiest way to
this hair.
The easiest way to
That's not
find the
mine.
line is just to go be around black women. Like that's immerse yourself. You'll be all right. You know, like you'll figure out the line real fast. Like
Well, obviously she has experience with the line because
Yeah.
she knows not to touch it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
somebody somewhere was like,
It was me.
right?
I tell people all
Yeah.
day. No, I think what it comes down to is the right, or not the right way, I think is just to be like, man, your hair looks dope today, Jameeka. Like, those curls are popping. Like, what? You know what I mean? Or whatever it is. Did you do something different? Because it looks so good today. Even though that could be like a backhanded compliment.
Yeah.
I just realized that as it was coming out of my mouth.
And just to be clear, she shouldn't say popping or dope, because that shit gonna sound crazy. You know what I'm saying? Like, she should say however they say that. So, you know, like, don't say it different than her. You know what I'm saying? Your hair is pop. Like, don't get out of character.
Like, why are you saying
like, don't.
Right, because then you're like, why are you saying popping to me?
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? It's like,
Should be like,
would you say that?
I want to be clear.
Yeah, like if you wouldn't say
James,
popping
you use the word
to
poppin'
Hillary,
often.
don't say it to Jameeka. Like, come on.
Okay.
Just say your
making
hair is cute. I like your hair. Just leave it at that. It's okay to just say your hair is nice.
Yeah,
or
and
I
that's
like
what
your hair.
That's what I like. Also, I like when
Yeah.
people say this to me, but what I don't really like are the follow-up questions.
How long did it take to do it?
Yeah, I mean,
Is
and
it yours?
Is it yours? Do you wash it?
Right, yeah.
Yeah, Danette's good in the
Definitely.
studio audience.
Right.
What's wrong with asking how long it takes? Just curious.
Because it's
It feels othering in some way.
very much so. It's like okay, so for you wake up and go,
No,
but
no,
obviously
definitely not.
I may not.
I wash
Well,
my hair.
you're
I
never
got
mind.
long hair.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you can tell Ian takes time with himself, but I'm saying, like, but I mean, like, it almost seems like it's like a comparison. Like, why do you need to compare what I do to my hair to yours?
Yeah, to how long it takes. There is something that's a good point, because I sometimes I don't know why the things bother me. You know what I mean? Like, I just feel bothered by it. And I don't want to answer the question. For me, mine that I always say is, I'm like they ask me, they're like, oh, your hair's getting so long. I'm like, you saw me yesterday. You know, this is my hair.
Yeah.
I never liked it because I feel like they putting a value proposition on my decisions. Like, it always feels like they trying to insinuate that it's taking too much time and I should just cut that shit off and behave like they want me to behave. And it's like, nah, if my hair is important to me, it took long enough, brother. What do you mean? Like, what difference?
Oh, I get that all the time. I work in politics, long hair in politics, but it's a cultural thing.
Yeah.
You gotta tell people to fuck off.
Yeah, and
Mind
that's
your business.
I don't want to be
What
telling
does this
people
have to
fuck
do?
off
You
on-
know, what does my hair have to do with my policy decisions, or who I am, or what my values are, or what I stand for?
Facts.
Yeah.
I remember I worked for city council, and my cousin my little cousin had some steps in his hair, and I had shorter hair then, and I was like, fuck it, I want some steps in my hair. So I went and I got a zigzag put in the side of my head. I went back to work, and the 7-year-old councilman Charlie Brown walked in and he looked at me. He's like, I kind of like it. I was like, sick. I don't want to fucking fight over this at work, but I was ready to.
Yeah.
What does my steps have to do with it?
Yeah. The fact that we even have to consider
Yeah.
hair. You know what I mean? Like, as a black, fully natural, like 4C, you know, like that was something I thought about, you know, before I interviewed. Like, should I straighten my hair for the interview? Then I was like, hell no. Like, you're going to get this fro because this is what you're going to see every day.
Yeah.
So when I'm in front of you doing presentations, when I'm going around the country speaking, like, this is what you're going to see. So why am I going
There's
to
a lot
hide
of peer
that?
pressure about it.
Oh,
My hair was down in my
absolutely.
chest before I went to work for the mayor here in Denver, and I got the job with my long hair, but then my family pressured me and I cut it all off, and that was the wrong ass reason.
Yeah.
I've always
Cut
felt
your
like
power off.
the double standard is even like hyper relevant for black women. Because even like with you and as another man with long hair, I am somewhat deviating from like such a solid standard. It's like, you know, status quo. Like almost all professional men have short hair.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
fine. But with
No
women,
beards.
it's astounding because it's like
Yeah.
women have always in my head in their professional lives not been required to like box their hair, you know, like different hairstyles and things, and then to watch black women be like, no, you can't even have cornrows because that doesn't feel very like wild to me. You know what I mean? Like it's very like it's hard to
real.
watch because it's like that's unbelievable. Like
Yeah.
you can't wear an afro or some shit like that.
Yeah,
Doesn't make
it
sense.
like I said, when I interviewed like the night before, I'm like, do I really want to spend 3 hours straightening my hair? And I was just like, no. Like, I'm not here. I mean, I'm going to present my authentic self. And my hair is my authentic self. That's
For
as
sure.
authentic as you can get. So if they don't hire me because of my hair, then they're losing out because I'm fantastic.
Well, don't you feel like I've been told too about cutting my hair for politics, and they're like, wouldn't you do anything to win? And I'm like, fuck no. Like that's like isn't that something wrong about our culture? Like an underlying thing that I'll do everything to get that extra 1%, whatever it is, to juice myself up in sports or whatever it is, instead of just being content with where you are and presenting yourself as best as you can. Because it is your power, right? Whether you talk Samson or indigenous cultures, whatever, your hair is power. There's like static electricity in it. You're picking up on the waves. Like there's something going on with it.
Yeah, that was one of the reasons I grew my hair.
And women are powerful, and they have long hair, and they're in tune. And if you look at men with long hair, they tend to be a little bit more chill. Just saying.
White James?
White James does not have long hair.
Not at the moment. No, I have pretty square. This could be like politician hair.
It's a little longer for politician hair.
Longer than yours.
And you were really peaceful then.
Yeah, right. That's my own shit going on.
I might cut my hair some more. I just wanted to tell y'all that.
I get it though.
But that's your choice, right? I mean, you're ready for change.
But I
Not
think
because you feel pressure.
Not at all.
Right.
Yeah,
I will
not
say
at
this:
all.
Alan is the reason that I felt like emboldened to get my box braids because you were like, just live your best life. You said something like that, and I was like, I'm doing it. And I had to take the heat at work for it, though. Not like that it wasn't. It was just that people were just constantly commenting on it to the point where I was like, you don't know enough black people, and you guys need to get it together.
I was freelancing for so long, and I didn't know really about the world of journalism. And then I read about it on the back end. But journalism is so old and white. Like you would be all white, dude. You would be shocked when you walk into like a press conference, and it's like, you know how weird it feels to walk in as the like dude with dreads with headphones on or whatever. Like it's to the point of like you could feel like. Y'all really don't see this often, do you? Like, this shit is weird, huh? Like, this is like really weird to y'all for me to be in here like, hey, what's up? Like, this is really, what's the fuck? Like, what the fuck?
Have you ever been, like, mistaken for, somebody who didn't have credentials? You know what I mean?
No, I think it actually has worked in the opposite way of people being very much like, oh, leave him alone. Like, almost cautious to not offend me. You know what I mean? Like, that's been the experience. But it's also in public, in front of the press. So it's like, there's an interesting dynamic there, too. There's cameras out, like, you're in an official... You know what I mean? Like, if the police chief is holding a press conference and somebody stops a black journalist and won't let him in, it's going to look crazy. You know? Because I'm not going to let it go. I'm going to be like, what? Hey, y'all see this shit? So I think there's like...
I think this conversation transcends, too, into, like, jewelry and things.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And men in jewelry and, like, being Native and Latino. Like, when I walk in, and if I decide I'm going to rock a sweet bolo, that means something to my family, and there's power in the stones. Sometimes there's attitude there. So, like, I went to D.C., testify at the EPA and lobby, and I was like, do I go to D.C. and wear a bolo? Or do I go there and wear a power tie? And what game am I trying to play?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, do I need to break past all those barriers, or what are we there for? What are we trying to achieve? But when I wear my hair down and I rock, my stones and my bolos and, it's few and far between.
Yeah.
But you have to hold that space for yourself.
Facts.
For sure. Yeah. For sure.
The fact that we even have to consider, it's just telling.
Yeah, it always comes down to that. Mm-hmm. That it's like, it's just like one more thing we had to think about. Mm-hmm. However, I commend our caller for asking that question. Yes. And I want you guys to know out there, Off Club Fam, like, even while we're on our little hiatus, you guys can call us up and leave us messages, and we're going to try to get to them, as time goes by. Okay? Does that sound good?
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so we're having a little Thanksgiving dinner. So if you hear some noise and people eating and stuff, it's because we're eating for real.
We didn't tell anyone the premise.
No, we forgot. All right, fine.
This is going to be like our on-air Thanksgiving dinner, right? People have already turned it off by now. We're like half an hour in, and they're just like,
they're like, you know what?
Wow. Time flies.
This is not okay. So a couple things I wanted to talk about, particularly with this group, because it is Thanksgiving. And I don't know, I've been thinking a lot about race and identity, as I often do. And I feel like one of the things that gets left out of the conversation frequently are Indigenous people. Mm-hmm. And that is the reason Ian and I wanted to have you come on the show, just to kind of give us that perspective. It's not, I just feel like it's not something that's really even like addressed. I don't know if you want to speak to that a little bit without making us all depressed and shit.
About Thanksgiving and Native folks. I mean, I think there's, people imagine this like real happy scenario with 90 Native people sitting on one side and all these Europeans on the other. And I think there's times when white people and Native people have come together to break bread. I think that's a pretty natural thing. So I'm Hickory Apache. The tribe, my tribe, they celebrate in September a harvest festival, right? The Jewish culture, they celebrate a harvest festival. Right. So I think the concept around trying to be grateful for the harvest and what you've reaped of the work that you've done is like a pretty natural thing. I don't know. I know some Native people who really hate Thanksgiving. I know some that don't give two shits about it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And we're all just getting together to have fun and break bread and move on with our lives.
Does your family celebrate Thanksgiving?
My family does celebrate Thanksgiving.
What do you eat?
Well, with my white family or with my Latino family? Well, I'm mixed race. Put it out
Shouts
there.
out to the mixed race community.
Well, my mama always said, mixed will inherit the earth. She says, you break down barriers. It's all about love, right? Because in the time of racism, even when my mom was young, to be with a person that wasn't white, I think, was about love and getting past that. And so I got mad respect for that. I forget what the question was at the beginning, though.
I just wanted to know what you.
Oh, what do I eat for Thanksgiving?
Yeah.
Turkey, like the same old thing. The same old thing. I haven't ever had a chance to go down, so I'm not. I have relatives that live down there in New Mexico. I've never actually traveled back by the reservation for a holiday of any kind. It's full-on assimilation here, but I did study it in school. I think federal Indian law is a load of shit and a load of crap in the way they treat the people.
They always have.
And, they always have. And, it's really interesting because there's they talk about Native people as though we're one people, but there's like 400 some tribes. And I've traveled to all the western states. I just went to a reservation in Florida, right? I mean, they're different. It's different based on their culture. It's different based on, what's around you, how you have fared. Did the land they give you actually have natural resource extraction? Did you make a deal with the devil to extract from the Mother Earth? And how does that affect the interplay in your culture? There's a lot to it. A lot to it.
So what's your mix, if you don't mind me asking? Because that's one of my areas.
Yeah, my dad's Apache and Spanish, aka Mexican. I don't know. It's in Latino culture, Chicano culture, Hispanic culture. I think the idea of Chicano is what my father talks about. I think Chicano culture comes from this idea of like a deep understanding of our indigenous beliefs and our connection to the earth, and that we were here and part of that. And so I would say Chicano in that sense. And my mom's red hair, blue eyes. She's German and Swedish.
Okay.
Bright blue eyes.
Yeah, like my boy. Everything my son, my little white baby.
He's so adorable.
He is really cute, huh?
He is. He came right up and gave me a hug.
He's a warm little man.
Yeah.
Okay. So, no, because one of the things I was thinking about before we got together today was I was thinking about, like, this idea of, like, America, right? And so we had recently had some elections.
Here in Colorado, they went pretty well.
In Colorado, yeah. But I'm, like, feeling kind of like state.
I was in Florida for 6 days. Oh, it was really sad. But in some ways, they won on a lot of issues. They banned oil and gas extraction off the Atlantic coast. They gave the right to vote back to 1.5 million felons.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of wins there. And I think that'll turn the tide in the next election. So
Yeah.
getting this close.
Okay.
Yeah.
If there is a next election, y'all, I feel like we gonna die. Am I the only person feeling like that?
You think you don't think we're gonna make it another 4 years?
Another 2 years.
Yeah.
I think it's 2020.
Yeah, I think it's important to know who the we is. Like, somebody might fall off, but it won't be Allan.
That's all. I feel like I'm gonna make it.
Yeah, right? It does look crazy over there.
Okay. So it was I've never paid attention, I feel like, to politics in the way that I have since 2016. Honestly, I've never have. And this cycle was so, like, then with all of the like voter suppression, like, I feel like I heard about voter suppression. I thought about it for, like, my dad, or, you know what I mean, like, in the past, but I'm like, voter suppression is real and active and occurring regularly.
Definitely.
And I just saw that today, Gillum conceded today, I think.
During the recount, they didn't finish it? That's too bad.
Yeah, he conceded, and Stacey Abrams, our future president.
Boy, she would be a great president.
Yeah, she is
I watched
dope.
her speak. Oh my goodness.
She is dope. But she said her speech, I think, was called "I am not conceding," but which I like, because it's like she's not. The reason she didn't win was because, like, of voter suppression.
Yeah.
That's real.
Yeah, there's a couple things with elections. One, I even think they talk about how mail-in elections make things easier.
Yeah.
But in all reality, you still need to stamp. I think that's a poll tax.
You don't?
If you ask me. No, they'll mail them. They'll still take them, but they say put a stamp on it. To me, that's a barrier for the average person. right? That feels like a poll tax. And the other is they throw out all these ballots for signatures, right? They don't match, and so it's like, oh yeah, it's really easy. You can mail it in, but then if they throw out 40% of them, I always vote in person. I go every single time on election day, and I vote in person. And I even showed up once, and I had voted every election, and they were like, "Oh, you got purged from the record when Scott Gessler was the Republican was in charge." And I was like, "What the fuck do you mean?" And they were like, "Well, you can vote provisional," and I made a big old stink. And I had the privilege to have that day off.
Yeah.
And I went to another location where I made a judge like sign me in right there to make my vote count. But who would do that? Most people give up.
Most people wouldn't even know that was an option.
I didn't really know it was an option. They started telling me my options. And then I just kept, when they told me my options, then I chose.
Yeah.
But who even has the time for that?
Yeah.
You know?
They've been like, shit, can't
Fuck
go there.
it.
Yeah.
No, it's true.
Even if you
Depends
get
on
there
what
2
you
hours
do.
from work.
Yeah.
That should be a holiday. I wish it was like 4th of July too.
That would be
Fireworks, barbecue.
Yeah, we like really celebrate it and like, make it like a party. Like we're voting.
Yeah.
Yo, let's get that on the ballot.
Well, why is it a day? Why isn't it election week? Why is
Well,
there
we
why is there
obviously
only
need
one
Could
it.
you
day?
imagine? I mean, even as
the
long as
capitalist machine will not let you get a
Yeah.
whole week off.
and as long as it's taken to count these votes from that one day, just imagine if it was a week.
Yeah.
Well,
Like,
I
we'd
mean,
never get results.
but for us, it's like ongoing in Colorado because we
Yeah.
we get our ballots like 3 weeks before, and
But that's what I'm saying. You sign them and you send them in and they don't count and you don't know. They say they accepted it. I don't know.
You can get the update if you're rejected for signature.
Signature.
But
It
again,
does.
you're saying
Yeah.
who knows about
And then you have to follow
You have
up.
to have a cell
Yeah.
phone to
Yeah.
get text updates.
Yeah,
So you have to,
it's just,
yeah.
and do you care, it just seems like a lot. It seems like a lot. And if you could just show up with your ID and it would count. Or how about the fact is no one's really cheating. And so why don't we just let them fucking count?
that's what exactly. So it's really, to me, it was really heartbreaking and scary. And then like last night, I was watching Don Lemon. Don Lemon's had a transformation over time.
yeah, I don't know what happened to
Don-
him in the past like 4 years.
He got woke.
Where did he come from?
He-
this is the Don one 4 years ago. Like, what took you so long, bro? We've been here.
Yeah.
Like, we've been
Yeah,
waiting
I
on
don't
you.
believe it, bro. Like, I'm not
Like,
rocking with dude.
no.
There's too much
Yeah,
history there.
because you know what got me with him was the whole 5 things black people should do.
Yeah.
Like, pull up your pants. Don't say the N word. And I'm like, you have some nerve.
Yeah, he real Nike with the Colin Kaepernick right now. Like, all right, sure,
But
it's
still.
real fucking convenient, dog. But where was you? Just a couple. Like, it's been like this. Like,
God, that's how I feel about these people running for mayor talking about the highway and shit.
Yeah,
Oh yeah, where you been at?
yeah, like where?
Yeah. And just like
Lisa's the only one that's been
Yeah.
there.
in my home
Fighting.
state of
That's our girl.
Oklahoma. I'm from Oklahoma, and
Ew.
so I know, right? Like people are like Oklahoma, and I'm like, yeah, and they're like, that's a thing.
The
I'm like,
land of-
yeah,
The land
the land of the free, the home of the brave.
the Braves that they moved away from Florida?
No,
Oh shit.
Okay, sorry.
no, not those.
Was that the Thanksgiving deep shit you wanted?
Anyhow, but like so for the past 5, 6, 7, 8 years, the education budget has like gone down significantly under Republican governors. And so all you see on Facebook and everywhere is, oh, we need a Democrat, and oh, we're voting them out. Guess what happened? They voted another Republican governor. And I'm like, y'all ain't about that life at all.
Yeah.
You're not about that life. And he was like vocally against teacher pay raises, but yet all these teachers voted him in. And I'm like, you talk so much on Facebook. I don't care about what you say on Facebook. But when it comes to voting, like, you completely flip-flop.
Yeah.
And that's why it's hard to trust, certain segments of the population, because it's like, okay, on one thing, on social media, you're at the rallies, at the protests, you're this, that, and then when you vote, it's completely different. And I find that problematic. You're thinking.
I'm thinking about it because you're saying certain segments of the population, and I'm like, what segment could that be, Jameeka?
Try not to go there. Like, just be out. But I'm just saying, people will front and say one thing in public, and then
that's true.
it's obvious. With these election results, it's obvious.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
I think that puts you in the paradox, and then you can't trust anybody, because it's like for many people that I would trust on the progressive end have been voting in people that have been let's say not so progressive to the like I'm hesitant to call names, but like Diane DeGette comes to mind of like, she's blue, yeah, but I can't trust y'all if y'all gonna keep voting this woman in over and over and over, and you know what I mean? Because it's like she's not executing. She's telling you kind of one thing, but that is not what is then playing out. If you see what I'm saying.
I agree. I always say activism starts at the polls. Like, that's where it starts. That's where the rubber hits the road. And then we get the same results. And it's like, are you really?
But do you think...
Like,
Well, so, Danette want to say
You want to
something.
wait?
I was
Rob?
gonna say you do need to listen to what they're saying on Facebook. Trump became a president basically off Facebook.
Off Twitter.
Well,
Yeah, social
Yeah.
media.
Either way.
you do
yeah.
have to
I know.
kind of like pay attention to
Yeah.
And maybe it's just because my social media tends to be super liberal. Maybe that's just who I've surrounded myself with.
Well,
But
the
then-
algorithms reinforce it.
Well, that
the
too,
upvoting
yeah.
and all that stuff.
I purposely consume conservative media because I don't really have a better place
Yeah,
to
watch it.
I've tried,
Uh,
Allan. I
okay.
can't. I've tried.
Yeah,
I would like to read.
I live in Denver. I don't really leave the city that much, and then when I do, I go to like DC. I go to other places. I go to places that are equally kind of left leaning,
Well,
and
go
I
to
just
Oklahoma.
what?
You don't want to
Like,
go
give
to
me two
Oklahoma?
good reasons I should go.
Because the Thunder are there,
And
and
I just want to share.
the Thunder are there. Like,
Oklahoma State just won.
no, I'm a
played-
Sooner,
They
100%.
played Virginia or something.
Yeah.
I would like to read a text exchange I had with the great Allan Tellis recently. This is from November 7th. It was the day after Election Day.
oh, I didn't say nothing crazy.
No, I texted him and I said, I just watched like 2 minutes of Hannity and I had to stop. How do you do it? And Allan's response was, opposition research is key in the art of war, young warrior.
Yeah, and I
Okay.
make that shit. I'm being funny, but I'm super serious.
I know you are.
This shit is not for the faint-hearted.
Right.
These people are fighting ideological warfare for the future. Like, what type of world view are they trying to build? Like, these things are studied, they're verified, they have real-world consequences. Wars happen. Like, this is, you gotta know what the other side is on if you're under attack. Like, this shit doesn't happen by accident. You know what I mean? Like,
No, certainly it doesn't happen overnight, and there are themes.
Right.
And if you can start to unpack the themes and the words they're using, then it allows you to have more strength in combating the argument.
Absolutely. I just think it's
You start in
important.
their time when I think Obamacare is a perfect example. When you start using Obamacare, you're already locked into a paradigm and a connotation around the word that they're using.
Yeah.
And so when you see them leveraging this propaganda of using a word or a phrase over and over again, you can't be using that word. You're
Exactly.
already
Yeah.
lost once you start getting sucked into that dialogue.
Right.
The camping ban is a perfect one.
Yeah.
Criminalizing poverty, that's what it really is. But when they call it the camping ban, it looks better on the outside, and we're all like, repeal the urban camping ban. And when I'm up on stage, I'm like, stop criminalizing poverty.
Yeah.
This is insane.
Yeah.
We've already given in their paradigm, and the people have accepted their urban camping ban.
Absolutely.
Right? But we have to break that.
Yeah. So I think that's
That's real.
that undergirds that, right? Like that's why you need to like be aware. The best thing I think you could do is actually, to the point of the white woman I told to immerse herself in black people. I would love if it wasn't so tense for me to immerse myself in like the truck stop America they keep telling me about. I just can't go over there, and that's not my fault. In my estimation, that's their fault. I would go, but I don't want to walk in and be scared and nervous and on one and tense and shit, and I feel like that would be my experience. So I'm trying to like double back and get the secondhand version from Tucker Carlson or some shit. You know what I'm saying?
You need to have her come every week. She's awesome.
I've slipped in on Independence Institute here meetings and stuff, but I agree with you. It's a lot easier for me to put on a hat and dress the part and just be there and listen.
Yeah.
Than them being like, who's this dude? Like silence as soon as the door opens.
And just the hair alone.
Exactly.
Because even if I had short hair, I think I may be able to pull it. Like if I had short hair and kind of,
You'd be like, is this Ben Carson number 2?
Exactly. I think I could wiggle through, but it's a little hard.
Oh,
with
he
the dress.
might be okay. Okay.
I'm an accountant. Like slide right through.
I believe in business channels.
All right, that's good. That's good. All right. So now I have a somewhat serious question. So I recently went to Facing Race in Detroit. Why, James, do you know what Facing Race is?
Yeah, it's a conference that you just attended, but I feel like you should let people know.
I'm so sorry.
Can I just say I was completely distracted. Rebecca Henderson has 26,407 unread
No,
emails.
ma'am. How? That would drive me nuts.
That's like all I can think about right now. That's my living nightmare.
If my inbox says 1, I'm like, where is it? No.
I would just delete
can't.
that email account, is what I would do.
That's right.
Hide
I
it.
need it.
Yeah, I got a couple of accounts.
Can you hide it?
I got a lot.
You need to hide it off your
No, it
off
doesn't
your-
bother me. I just like know what's in there. It's fine.
You know what 27,000?
There's no possible way you know what's in there, but you know it's not important to you. That's what you know.
Delete the account. I'm with white
Whew, okay. I'm keeping
So
it
you
together.
attended Facing Race.
So I attended Facing Race, and it was so dope. So can I just talk a tiny bit about Detroit real quick, just because like I'd never been there. Has anyone at the table been to Detroit?
Not yet.
No.
Not yet. No. Okay. So since I'm the only one that's been there, I'm now a Detroit expert. And
Okay. That'll be Allan.
Danette, just eat the food. Look, you guys, I know it's a podcast and you can't see Danette skulking around here, but she's helping us, doing cookies, giving us some songs, and we love her. So shouts out to Danette.
You should be eating like 5 of these.
Yeah, they're
Those
eating
cookies
some
are
right
dope.
now. Yes, yeah, that one's really good. Okay. Okay, so I was I went to Detroit, and the first thing that like happened to me in Detroit, so to speak, was I got a Lyft. And I had the best Lyft driver ever, and we always say that, right? But he was just like this really sweet kid who is from Cameroon. He's studying, but he didn't even live in Detroit. He lived over in Toledo, however you pronounce it in English. Is it Toledo?
Ohio?
Toledo? Yes.
Oh.
So but it's so close to Detroit. I'm not good at geography, you guys. P.S. Detroit is right next to Canada, y'all. I didn't know that. You could just go across the river to Windsor, and I was unaware of that. Anyway, so I asked him well, what's like Detroit's, what's the specialty foods? And he's like, I don't know. He's like, I'm the wrong person to ask, you know? So I did find out they do have a specialty food, and I wanted to share that because I did eat it. And it is a pastrami egg roll. Y'all are dead.
That's like a
Go on.
Is this at some like up and coming gentrification
I was
fusion
like, that
restaurant?
sounds like
It's like
Right.
old timey because Detroit is like a really like multiracial, multi-ethnic, like cultural center.
Are you looking it up? Are you gonna show
No,
us?
I did. Did you know that Detroit and Toledo are 60 miles from each other?
Yeah.
No,
No.
I had no.
No.
We're all
that
terrible at
Haiti
geography.
Yeah.
then.
No, but I'm saying yes. And so he goes over there because you can't do anything in Toledo like at night to be driving Lyft, so you gotta go to Detroit, basically. So anyway,
Okay.
the point is I'm off subject on that. So that was I just liked but I liked the feeling I got even just from like my ride, right? I started having like a good feeling. And I was so overwhelmed by like the amount of Black and brown people that I got to see on a daily basis there from coming from Denver, and it was really rejuvenating for me in a lot of ways. So that was really cool, just being in the city itself. And then I got to be at this conference with like all these like social justice workers, and like, has anyone been to Facing Race before? It's a great conference, and I highly recommend it. And it's just a lot of sessions, a lot of cool people, like Hari Kondabolu was there, and he's coming on the show. I got him, by the way. He's coming to Denver. Yes.
All right.
Hari Kondabolu is coming on Off Color, you guys. If you don't know.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yes. He doesn't know when, but he's definitely coming.
Just
Okay.
say he doesn't know.
I feel like
He doesn't know.
The first step
like
is
he-
to manifest it.
I feel like he agreed under duress.
Well, I have I do have a
Speaking
picture.
from experience.
He
Yeah.
said he agreed.
He agreed.
Yeah.
That's the point. So anyway, so it was this great conference, all of these amazing discussions, all of these connections, a lot of beautiful things. I met like amazing people. I got to go out into the city too, like, because I was like, this doesn't look like the Detroit I've heard tale of, because it was the downtown, like, conference center area. And I made a friend, and her name is @Peace Makita. Hey girl, hey. And she took me like to this poetry spot, and she took me to like this like cannabis club where they were doing like paint and puff, and I loved how like lit Detroit was, like just in general, like the style, the clothes, the people, the activism, like everything there was really cool. So I would definitely recommend going out to Detroit if you get a chance to go and to check it out. That's all. So I'm like, yay, Detroit.
They have a big house music scene there too.
I don't know.
No, they do.
They do, yeah.
They really do. A lot of my friends travel there for it.
Okay.
It's called Movement.
Okay.
Every year.
Oh, word. All right. So that's another thing you can go to Detroit for. So I'm just saying.
Detroit's a vibe. That's what we're saying.
I am, and I feel like you would love it, Alan. Honestly, but
How
I will
cold is it
say
there, though, like
it's
that?
cold as which is tit, y'all. It's cold,
Right.
Cold as fuck. So
Lost
that
me.
was one thing I would definitely say. But I felt like I just. I know. I'm so sorry, wait, James, because you might have to edit some of this, but it was so.
Sounds good to me.
It was just dope, but it was also like because when I met at Peace, she was like, "There's 2 Detroits." She's like, "There's this where you guys are at, and then there's like the other city," and she won Lion. Like she took me to it's a neighborhood called Highland Park, and it's pretty like it was rough. Like I've been to impoverished areas in my life. And I was like, what the hell is this like burned out? like what's going on here, you know? But then at the same time, in that place, there was this amazing like shop called Nandy's Knowledge Cafe. And it was just like this like black bookstore and stop, and they had poetry, and it was so great, and I felt so good and so welcome. Like I even like did a piece, you know what I mean? Like, and it, like that's not my community, and they like totally welcomed me, and I felt awesome there. So that's long. Next, I wanted to talk about what happened at Facing Race, though. In addition to that, was the last question they had this session, and they asked a question about is America possible? And so, like, is it possible? Is it like the dream of America? It's like we're supposed to be, you know, we get sold this dream, like, oh, it's a melting pot, it's this, it's that, it's all those things. But looking at the way things are right now, and with like, you know, and everyone's like, oh, is a nation so divided and that, and I've been like really like ruminating on this question of if it is like possible. You know, this is like an experiment. There's never been a democracy, like a multi-ethnic like democracy.
That's not true.
Lay it on me, brother.
Indonesia is like 3rd largest. It's Muslim. They have like 1 million different religions, all different kinds of people. I don't believe that.
From when did they have their democracy until?
I don't know.
That's what I'm saying though.
Last
so it's
100
like,
years probably.
So that's less time than us.
Well, I don't know. In 1950 we finally had civil rights, so you know, I don't know. We're less than 100 years
Okay.
through that.
All right.
You know, we had the last amendment to the Constitution in 1993.
Right.
You know, I mean, it's getting
You're facking. You're facking, not cracking. Yeah.
We're a little behind.
Right.
Or a lot behind.
Okay.
I mean, to be fair, they still kind of have kings, but I mean,
Yeah.
for like millennium, they had kings, and for the last 200 years, only in the last 20 years have people been able to be 18 and vote and all these other things. So, is it possible? I think so.
You think
I think
so?
it's progress. We're moving.
You think we're moving forward?
I mean, honestly, like 1950 to now is like 70 years, and for like 100,000 years they had kings. Just like perspective.
We're all like, what?
Yeah.
But I mean, if you look at the like people who are, you know, if we all end up renters, there's not much different than like feudal system there, if you ask me. But
Yeah.
we're in this constant battle there about ownership.
I don't think it's possible. I don't think the nation state is possible at all, and I think America even more so is an unfeasible endeavor in the era of globalism. That's just where I'm at with it. So I think it's impossible on 2 different levels. I think most nations wouldn't be able to withstand what globalism is doing. And I think especially America is in a unique position to not be able to exist as we know it now under these conditions.
I'm kind of with Alan. I don't think it's possible. I think that the majority is going to do whatever they can to stay the majority. And if you're outside of that, then you're always going to be othered. You're always going to be the exception. You're always going to be, you know, uncomfortable. And I don't think there's anywhere for those who are minorities in so many ways. I mean, not even just racially, but even those with disabilities and, you know, religion. And I don't think we'll ever get to a point where the minority will become the majority. Because the majority,
Girl,
maybe
we are on our way.
but
I'm
maybe
sorry,
in
but just by
numbers,
birth, in numbers, yes, but okay,
yes.
okay.
But when I'm talking about power, I don't think it'll happen here. I mean, when you've had power since the inception of this country, when that's what this country was founded on, you're not going to give that up. It's not. And I mean, I hate to sound pessimistic, but I think you just have to kind of make your way through it.
I think finding a way around it in so many ways has been my solution, both psychologically and physically, figuring out how to like operate in and out of the system.
Definitely.
If there's ways to do it, I like to figure that out. I'm not like a computer hacker or anything like that, but the interesting thing I always remember is that the Great Depression, Black people didn't go under because Black people had already been operating under the radar, trading with each other. We couldn't go to banks. We couldn't really own land. We couldn't do this. You couldn't go here. So we had to figure it out. So there was a Great Depression, but there wasn't a Great Depression for Black people.
And in many areas, we actually thrived during the we had to.
Unplugging.
Yeah, we had to. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I would love for our country to actually become the thing that is written, at Ellis Island. Give me your poor, your hungry, you're tired, your soul's yearning. I would love that, but I just don't. I can't see it being a thing. I mean, I think right now we're just kind of making it. We're trying to make it. We're trying to make it with each other, and trying to stay out of the way. And I know it sounds horrible, but it's like we're trying to live. We're trying to exist, and I just can't see the majority being like, yeah, let me just relinquish all this just to say that we're a melting pot. I can't see it happening.
Well, I don't think that they willingly relinquish it. I think that that's where the power of direct democracy with petitioning legislation on, taking corporate money out, like we just did in Denver with 2E and Democracy for the People. I think that we do have tools that rip it away from them. Because you're right, they're not giving it up.
No, they're not giving it up.
They're not giving it up.
And they're going to keep it, at all costs.
There are, we were talking just about your Indiegogo and the people who are running. I mean, one of the things that's really interesting is Lisa Calderon has talked a lot about relinquishing power from the mayor's office back to city council and to the people. And creating more independent appointees for commissions and a lot of those kinds of things. And so I think there are people talking about it. If she wins, will she do it? We'll see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? I mean,
she gonna win. Otherwise, my movie not gonna be good, y'all.
I'm for her winning. That's not what I mean. I just mean you get in and you have this power and you have this paradigm, and it's like, can one person alone shift that power back to the people? Will the council allow them to? It's interesting. It's just really interesting.
Yes.
Can I ask Allan to speak on? Can you talk a little more about what you were saying about the nation state more general? Are you talking do you see just sort of a decentralization just out of this big structure that we live under generally?
I think that's what has been predicted going forward, because it's impossible to put some of the changes that have happened back into the bag. And nation states are newer than people kind of realize. It's to my understanding, it comes out of the French Revolution. So it's not as if nation states have existed as we know them for this eternity, for all of human history or whatever. Most nation states don't even make sense, and it's a point of constant tension when you think about places that were carved up: Latin America, Africa, Eastern Europe, Southeast Asia. The nation state it wasn't set up well, and it's coming to an end because of technology. There's a paradigm shift. We're shifting in the world that we live in to a global world, and that's ripping the nation state apart, because the things that existed to keep it together no longer matter in the same way. I always use the metaphor, as long as I can FaceTime someone in Sri Lanka, you can't tell me I'm just an American. No, I'm part Sri Lankan. I know what they're doing over there. That's part of my culture as well. I'm part South African. I listen to South African music. I'm part almost all of these things. So to call me an American is very reductive at a certain point. It doesn't represent what I am in the global world. I'm a black man. That's even more accurate, so to speak, than I'm an American. So I just feel like you're watching it kind of. At least I've read a lot about it recently, and that's kind of why I have such strong feelings towards it. There was an Indian, his last name was Arapopo. I can't say his name right, but basically he was like, yeah, the nation state's kind of on his last legs, and Donald Trump represents in so many ways what it looks like to try to cling to nationalism in a global world. It looks chaotic. It looks backwards. It looks counterproductive, and that's what it looks like to try to grip on to like there's a difference between Canada and Mexico and the United States, and we're gonna build a wall because that's how much we want to reinforce the idea that this is different than this. And it's starting to make less and less sense. I think it's over. And America's super interesting because it's a nation state held together by an idea. And that's the hardest thing to, I think, hold people together by, is just like a notion that some people think is untrue. Like a notion that a lot of people don't feel like is representative of America. Like the idea that we're free and we have the rights to pursue life, liberty. And some people feel like that's not even accurate description if we were to call the idea of America a thing. So I think America's in a very unique position to like really have a tough time as we shift in like our global paradigms.
I was just thinking about what you were saying, even scaled down, and you have these people in California, Washington, or northern Colorado that want to secede from the nation state of Colorado in a sense, right? Because we are in our own, we're a state inside this coalition of other states. Yeah.
Like space boundaries make even less sense when we can identify, like Boulder and Denver are different than Colorado Springs. What the fuck does Colorado have to do with, like you can start to push harder on like, now we're more like LA than we are like Colorado Springs. Mm-hmm. So like, why would I identify, just because we're close together? Like the trains aren't what connect us anymore, so to speak. Like I don't have to align myself with you because we're physically, locked in a made-up box, and it's just an interesting shift, and it's rough. It's like it's a very awkward time, like to be in politics because it's very divided, like the president's kind of wild, there's a lot of shit going on.
Kind of wild.
Yeah, kind of wild.
You're the most lucky dude I know.
Well, the dude
kind of wild a little bit,
the dude in Brazil was about to kick off a genocide. So that's what I mean by like the Nigerian president was like, we threw rocks and we shot him in the chest. Fuck you mean?
Yeah.
Like
what's happening in Nicaragua?
So when I say kind of wild, I mean kind of wild. Like he's disrespectful, but like there's people out here fucking wild, like killing journalists in the middle of the night and shit. You know what I'm saying? Like people wilding out here. Trump kind of wild. He kind of out of pocket every now and then.
That's the nicest description I've ever heard. That's funny.
You see why we love him?
It's kind of wildin'. I'm gonna start saying that. Like Trump, he kind of wildin'.
Because he don't have that much power in my head. Like he has quite a bit, but not enough that it's more than like, you out of pocket, bro. Like there's nothing to be. I'm not as afraid, I think, of Trump as sometimes it feels like on the news. Like sometimes the news act like he's capable of ending the world. He
could push a nuclear button.
Yeah. I really do like to believe it's harder than that. Like I really do like to believe, because they tell you there's literally a person with a suitcase that follows the president, and if the president says push the button, like I don't know, like that sounds very fairy tale-ish.
So if he did that, he would just be kind of pushing the button, right? Like just a little bit.
I don't know if he could do that. I don't know. I don't know. Like I don't know if it's just like real as he could.
People there who would clock him.
I'd want to think that
before he could push it. You don't think anybody would
run up and
tackle
get him?
this fool?
No.
Somebody.
No, but my old black daddy says, he's like, he can't just push it. He's like, there's some codes, there's some things. He can't just push it. That's what he says. So, I don't know. I mean, I feel a sense of chaos. I like what you're saying, like, this is what it looks like, when he's like trying to like hold on to that. Because I want open borders. I feel like we should be able to live wherever we want, and I feel like that's to me feels like a human right, and so that's just how I feel about it. I don't like this idea that you can't like.
It's interesting you say that. So we have open borders within the United States if you're an American citizen, right? Mm-hmm. But you look at the amount of hatred there is to people moving here to Denver now, but yet there's all this money to lift up immigrants, and so it's like, oh, you hate somebody who moved here from Chicago? Mm-hmm. They're like, oh, go home, like, gentrifier. Or they're like, welcome somebody from Mexico. Like, to me, that is just like, it's so lost on me, that anger. It really is.
As a transplant.
Especially if you're an American. It's like, you have the right to live wherever you want in this fucking country.
Yeah. And I'm a transplant. And so when I see like the bumper sticker that says native, I'm like, well, okay.
You know who got one of those, right?
Oh, I'm like, Dang.
Oh, sorry.
I don't know. I'm a native.
Never mind.
I'm actually from Colorado.
I have a question about that though. That's like that's a question I want to ask though. I'm gonna come back to this idea of like migration or whatever within the United States, but like that shit. I am not native person, right? Except for my like
To Colorado, you mean?
No, like a indigenous type.
Sure.
And I'm not native to Colorado neither, and I will never claim that. Okay, I'm from New York. What? All right.
You know you're from New York because they tell you.
You better watch out with me in white jeans. Okay, so I forgot what I was saying.
I think maybe you were getting to the question of what kind of balls it takes for a white person to be like, I'm from Colorado, therefore I'm a native. Maybe that's what you were getting
so
toward.
good. I love that.
I got that sense too.
Yeah.
I hate that. That's like a huge pet peeve of mine is that when I see that bumper sticker, I feel like it's gross. Like I don't like it. I'm like, you're not a native, and I don't like your like appropriating of that term. Mm-hmm. And I hate everything about you. That's what I think when I see that.
Hate with hate. Martin Luther King would love that.
Facts.
Oh, but he wasn't the pushover we make him out to be.
Amen to that, sister.
I got in
I
trouble.
did a whole presentation about that. The Jewish Community Center invited me.
Yeah.
And they were like, we want you to talk about Martin Luther King. And I was like, okay, but. I said, can I talk about some things that people may have forgotten? And they were like, sure. And they loved it. I mean, I'm talking to like 40 elderly Jewish people. And they invited me back. So I'll be back in January. But they loved it. I'm like, and I called it the Forgotten MLK because people have just like watered him down to the most basic, like I have a dream speech. And that was not his only speech. He had like 500 other writings other than that. Yeah. And he blatantly called out the white moderate. You know what I mean?
Several times.
Oh, yeah.
Repeatedly. And I'm like, can we just stop? Like making him out to be, he stayed strapped. Like he was not a punk. He stayed strapped. All his people around him stayed strapped. Like, you don't go to jail as many times as he did by just sitting around and just chilling. Like he was radical, and I need people to like stop making him out to be this, let's just hold hands and sing Kumbaya. Like that's what people have reduced him to.
I'm gonna go ahead and out myself out the closet. I'm known as a Martin Luther King slanderer, and the issue. So I just want to be honest. I just feel like honesty is key. My issue with actually what happened in full disclosure. It's always tricky how you say this. All right, so Nietzsche writes this critique of Christianity. I believe what he said was correct about the issues that are inherent in Christianity. Mm-hmm. Martin Luther King is a devout Christian and promoted Christian principles en masse as a solution for the problems of black people. And I think that was problematic, and I think the ripples of that have hindered black people from self-sufficiency up until today. So like that's my issue. I to your point though, I really appreciate, especially older Martin, like just a couple years before he died, like in that Martin was going crazy, and I don't want to take anything away from that, but that I point to that a lot as my kind of issue with Martin. As prolific as he was a great guy. It's not to say that he wasn't important. It's just I think there's like a moral issue with the message that, and especially in hindsight, which how it has been watered down to the message that we received from the 80s on. It's just it's problematic. Like it's beyond him. He's a figure now. He represents something, and that what he represents to me is problematic.
I think that's a fair assessment. I partially agree. I mean, I'm not going to make him out like he was just, telling people to just go up to houses and blow people up. You know what I mean? But I think that the approach he took was greatly misunderstood. Yeah. And I think that the messages that he preached were kind of just forgotten in order to make white people feel comfortable.
Yeah.
And that in order for them to make him their martyr, their lead. He's always thrown up in conversation. Well, Martin Luther King said, what Martin Luther King said, and I'm like, sweetie, if I could give you 5 minutes of what he actually said, you wouldn't like him anymore.
And I think
So
white people often use Martin as a date to dock the start of a post-racial world. I think he
Right.
is very useful for them in that. Well, like when Martin said it, it was over because we all agreed that Martin was right, and like because they can point to like these videos and look, there's Bernie Sanders is right there.
And I'm like, but then when they do that, I'm like, but they killed him, right?
Yeah.
Like,
It shot him in the
here.
chest. Like that's a very violent. We live in
Yeah.
a very kind of kid, and that's the part. Like Donald is kind of violent. JFK got his head blown off on TV.
Yeah.
Martin got shot on a balcony. Like these were very violent. This wasn't like a. And then they assassinated. But no, it's like Abraham. They ran up on him and shot him in the chest. They sniped
At
him
the theater,
from-
yeah.
Like it's just important to put. To your point, put shit in context. Like it wasn't this rosy and then they killed Martin. Nah, bro, they shot him in the chest.
I'm like, yeah, he's dead. Y'all like, oh, well, he was the standard, and he thought this, and he believed that, and why can't you believe that? Because they shot him anyway. That's why.
Yeah.
The end. You look distressed.
I'm not distressed. My name is Rebecca,
Oh.
and I'm not drunk. No. I, as you were talking and having this conversation, I can't help but think about, some of this too. Like we're having this food and then like it's Thanksgiving coming up, yada, yada, yada. But I think about and this is something that our friend that we always miss, Dr. Diggs, talked about a lot, that like we can't ever really make America because we have to like atone for like what America is built on, which is blood, murder, genocide, slavery, etc. And so I mean, I don't know. I think sometimes that's why I want to have these kinds of conversations, is because I feel like if we could like unpack all of that stuff and people could really understand, like, okay, like this is what was going on with like Dr. King, and like this is what happened, with the Apache Nation, and this is what responsibilities white James ancestors has. And I was like, mine too. I'm half white. What? And so, but just to be able to kind of have these kinds of conversations, if it's possible.
Can I just say something real quick?
You may.
I wanna say this out loud because it's on my mind. I just thought it, so it sounds crazy. Let's edit it out.
That guarantees that it's staying. But
I
go
was
ahead.
going to say, like, I'm really into lately not even concerning myself with what white James must atone for, because the key is to get white James to understand that his future is intertwined with mine. Like that's kind of the key.
Yes,
It's like to get
absolutely.
people to understand like the modernism ship is crashing. This is going very bad, and there's a bunch of metrics to show that the millennial. I'm a millennial. We're doing worse. Like it's going the other way. There's a lot of cultural shifts that look nice on the surface. We're more accepting. We have PC culture in full swing. But I just looked the other day, the average black family in the state of Colorado makes $38,000 a year. Rent is crazy. This is not a good look. And it's just, when you think about that number, that means that there's some black people doing well, pulling the number way this way.
Yeah.
So that means there's a mass of black people making less than $38,000 a year. I'm a person that lives in this world. It's tough to raise a family on $18,000, especially if that's happening in whole sections of a city. Like it's not going that we got to check in. You know what I'm saying? It's not exactly the best thing for white James to just be like, Lottie, it feels somewhat okay for me. Like, oh, okay, in just a second, it's gonna feel real. There's an opioid like you see shit creeping over the fence. Like, yeah, it's looking real bad. The coal mines are closed, huh? It's like real tough over there. Huh? You see like those gears starting to turn, but it would be nice to like before the crash to reassess what we're doing. You know what I'm saying? So,
I knew it was bad when they are opening these centers for people to go inject and to do drugs safely and in peace. That's like crisis level when you make money and time and property for that.
what's ironic about that?
Drop-in
Is
centers for heroin?
It takes it to get so bad for people to do shit that makes sense. Like, because paradigm shifts are so hard. And one of the reasons that they're so hard is people don't always accept what is now more rational. And what's more rational is to have injection sites. That's proven. It's statistically true in Europe. It just makes more sense. But it took it to get to like fucking people dying like for someone to be
needles
like,
all over.
let's give it a shot.
Yeah.
Like maybe that'll.
It took it changing the face
Yeah.
of addiction. That's what it took.
Yeah.
Because
It
when
took
our
for-
uncles and daddies and were taken away, it was like, oh, that's really bad. Well, this is your brain. This is your brain on drugs. Any questions? But now it's like, here, let me open this center for you. Let me put all these rehab commercials on. It's like, where was this in '84?
Yeah, I hear you.
I really agree with what you're saying, though, that I'm not so concerned with. I mean, when my white friends, like, they're often shocked when you start to tell them about things from the past, because we all went through an education system that whitewashed or just denied vehemently lots of things. And maybe whitewash isn't even the right answer, but, like, there's just a lot that they did not tell us. But I agree with you 100%. It's about the future and intertwining that. And that's why, working as a youth educator, right, we try to talk to the kids like, yeah, all these bad things happen, but you have a choice not to be bad.
Yeah.
Right? And when they, when White James or anybody when they feel defensive because you're like, you fucking did this, no, I didn't do anything except come here to break bread with you.
Yeah, but even if they're not defensive, I mean, guilt is a useless emotion. It's like
Unless you're gonna give money to my Indiegogo, then it's working for me. Sorry,
but it's, I mean, I think there's a lot to talk about, like the original sin of the society and stuff like that. But there's enough sinning happening right now
Exactly.
that it's like, it's great to inform people about the 18th century, but enough people are not informed right now about what statistics look like on police killings and things like that, and that's happening today.
Or like,
Or who's in jail.
Our for instance, the wealth gap. Like, is you don't have to antiquate the conversation about reparations with the sins of slavery. It's about the unsustainable economic condition we have right now. Like, it's like, okay, you don't even have to start. You could start with the kind of most rational argument for the moment. We can't have a situation where people were systematically locked out of wealth and then redlined and blah, blah, blah. Look at what has happened because of that. There's this gigantic wealth gap. That's not sustainable for a country, because you're going to have unrest if you have such great economic inequality for people that were working. Like, this is going to be a problem. So maybe we should, like, you don't have to necessarily be like, there was so much harm done. Maybe not in the, like, lawsuit sense of, like, reparations for harm done, but maybe, like, reparations for a stable future, like an economic future that makes sense.
Yeah, or an understanding, I think, the Gilded Age, for example, where we saw wealth gaps of this extreme, is when we started to see some real change in the Constitution.
Yeah.
Right? Electing senators, a lot of those kinds of things, you saw a shift. So I think looking back and saying, wow, like, shit was really fucked up like this a long time ago, and these were the tools and the solutions they used, perhaps we should look at them again.
Yes.
Like, for example,
Right.
this one with, like, the homeless right now, where they're paying for the privatization of, like, helping people self-actualize. So they're like, if a private corporation comes in and gives a person a job in housing, and then they're like, oh, it worked out. And you're like, no shit, it worked out. It worked out in the New Deal, dumbass. Like, why are we privatizing it? We know that if you give somebody a house and a home and a job, that they're going to self-actualize.
Yeah.
Like, that's part of it. And so we should be lifting people in that manner, not saying that the corporations are our savior on a solution that people already made.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, as the historian at the table, I'm like, we have to use history to learn from. And I know that sounds so cliche. But I'm so passionate about Black history because there's so much, like, misinformation out there about it. And when you spread misinformation, it gives people a false sense of who they are.
Yeah.
And so I feel like when you know who you are, when you know where you come from, I mean, just having that confidence helps you build, onto other confidences. And then learning about Mansa Musa, learning about Deborah Rector, learning about, all these people who were successful and didn't go about it in the traditional way that you're successful, it kind of gives you an idea of, oh, okay, well, maybe I can be an inventor. Maybe I can, do this. Maybe I can do that too. I mean, I think we need to use history to help build that sustainable future, that Allan's talking about.
And yeah, it's really interesting because it's kind of playing on what you had said earlier of kind of, it worked in the New Deal. Now they're calling it positive racial identity in school. That it's like it's low hums of positive racial identity, and that's so much better for the kids, and they learn so much better if they know about where they came from. And it's like, wow, we're just kind of figuring that out in 2018, but teaching them about their history helps them learn and make and create their future,
Yeah, representation matters. Period.
It does. It does.
Just that. I mean, I didn't even know being a black librarian was a thing until I went to college. I had never met one.
I'm still convinced that to that point, I haven't had any children, but if I have children, I really want to raise them in Africa for the first couple years of their life, because I know how important that concept is now as an adult looking back, and I just don't want them to have to like find that out the hard way, like you that I did, like. Oh, you can be a black librarian. Like I don't even want to have to. Like that's too much already. Like life is hard.
Yeah.
Life shouldn't come with these additional burdens of you not knowing the possibilities what you could. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like
And
I just don't.
I think that's why even those of us in these professions, these different professions, need to do more to talk to children about what we do.
Yeah.
Because like I said, I never met a black. I was 19 before I met a black librarian, and I'm like, oh, we can do that. And she was like, do what? And I was like, be a librarian. And she was like, yeah. And she turned out to be my mentor. And so it's like, you know, we have to remember we have children who grow up at different levels of access. So I meet children at my library who've never seen an actual black librarian. They know that black people work at the library, but they don't know, oh, she's the one that's in charge. Oh, she's the one that has the master's that's actually a librarian. You know, and it blows their mind. They're like, oh, like I could be a librarian? You sure can, girl.
How do you think it feels when you have never had a Chicano president or an Asian president?
Yeah.
Right? What does it top out for us? Or women mayor, for example. Right? I mean, those things exist.
Yeah.
For sure.
People like to downplay the optics, but it's important. That's where it starts there for a lot of kids.
I mean, Federico Pena is like an icon in my community, right? Because he achieved the highest level there. Well, we still have him on the governor. We still have him at a presidential level. I mean, I think those pieces are there.
Hey, I get in trouble for saying this a lot. I say things I shouldn't sometimes.
I can't imagine.
Yeah, but to the point of like Obama being a black president, I think sometimes that's a little overplayed because Obama's mixed. If I were to meet Obama on the street, he's not like for instance, like Malcolm plays a special role, and part of that is the aesthetic. Like, part of that is just the actual, like, oh, he's a black man, like, down to the, if I were to line up 10 black dudes out here, he would just fit in, you know? I think that's important. Like, I just feel like sometimes we forget that about Obama.
I don't forget it because we share the same genetic makeup, essentially. Yeah. But I would say that the thing is that in America, right?
Yeah.
We just look at people.
Yeah.
And so for me, Obama is black. To me, he looks mixed, right?
Yeah.
But that's because I'm mixed.
Yeah.
And I think that there was something to that.
Yeah, people can tell, I think, often if you're mixed, you can be like, oh, yeah.
Yeah. And so I think, though, I don't know, to me, that is something that I said a lot because everyone was like, he's black, and I consider myself black also. And at the same time, I remember saying, if he looked like Wesley Snipes, he would not have been elected.
I think that's important. You know what I'm saying? Like
agree.
If Andrew Gillum looked like Obama, he would have won by 78%. Like it wouldn't even be fucking close. Like you can't have this dark black man up there talking about, that's not it's just not as easy of a sell. I think
which in itself is why I don't think that America is possible.
Yeah,
That's a factor.
Man,
unless we all mix and then our skin.
I mean, I'm down.
So.
I'm game.
I mean, listen, fact is, Jameeka, people can't see I'm looking at you, but I see the mixed in you. Okay? That's called rape from slave days. However, I will say, no, but that's just the way it is.
Yeah.
And so, because I do all this stuff around like mixed race identity, and like for me, when I talk to like a Black American, I'm like, are you a Black American? Then you're mixed, not by choice, but like when you go to like an African country, or even to the Caribbean, when you have like this history of like maroons and people who were, you know what I mean? And you see the black people living there, their complexions are significantly darker than an American black person.
Yeah.
Like, significantly. Except for Ethiopia, but that's because they've been mixing
Well,
with the Arabs.
I mean, in fairness, Africa has the most genetic variation of England. So there
That's
are
correct.
quite a few light-skinned
Yes.
people all
Yes.
throughout Africa. So like, I want to caution that by saying
Yeah.
like, just being dark doesn't make you probably any more or less
Pure
And to the
than
point of
someone else.
mixing,
Yeah.
I want to be very clear. I take no issue at all with mixed race couples, mixed race love. I take zero interest in like, do your thing. However, I have been very intentional in seeking out black women. And I do that, and the only reason I say that is because I do it on purpose, and I do that because those women have been the only place where I have felt comfortable enough to probably have a relationship to the extent of like a real loving, like I love you type of relationship. You know what I mean?
I do know
so
because I married a Jamaican Jamaican Jew because I felt like he could feel me.
Yeah, could like relate.
I feel like nowadays the complexion of your skin, like if you're the darker your skin is from like say a tan perspective, whether you're a white person or a Mexican person or whatever, it has a lot to do with what the fuck your job is.
Yeah.
Right? So in my culture, like you're really dark or like you're like, oh yeah, you must be a contractor.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then you have Latinos who have lighter skin and you're like, oh, you wear suits all day. Like, you know, there's a piece to that. Like you can see
the
it
colorism
in their skin.
Yeah.
Colorism is
It gets
is a
darker
global
from the skin. And
phenomenon.
I've seen white people out there who are, you know, making roads and they're like the darkest skin I've ever seen. I'm like, damn, you've been out there in the sun every day for like 3 straight weeks, haven't you?
Yeah, it's insane, and I always say that, even though I guess I'm not supposed to say insane anymore because it's like offensive or something. But I think you understand what I mean. No, let me start. I'm trying to use new words. It is absurd to me the consequences that are placed on our phenotypes and the way that genes are expressed.
Boy,
It's just absurd, really. Ultimately, is what it comes down to. And then the only thing I wanted to say, James. Sorry. I'm like, yes, but Allan, your queen is from Ethiopia.
Facts.
And she is a mixed race person. Because that is why Ethiopians are the color that they are, is because they are mixed with the Arabs, right?
I would only say a stop there to point out that she has 3 sisters and they're all of varying shades and complexions.
Exactly.
So she is not simply that way because of an invasion. There was an invasion, but she's that way because their phenotype comes in these kind of various colors.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying though to kind of push back a little bit on that, only because it's like that's what she is. That's like the history of that country, and I mean there is something to be said for being with like people who understand what you've been through, what you're going through, you know, and to try to have that. So I understand it. I feel like that's how I ended up with my mixed race husband because he like understood me. I feel like I also could have married a black dude. I also could have married Antonio. Hola, chico, ¿estás en España todavía?
I was wondering if I could I want to interject this one that has to do with just, you know, identity, especially with indigenous folks. That, you know, going back to the 1934, the Indian Reorganization Act, where they literally took away traditional modes of leadership in indigenous communities and made them reorganize in a mirror image to the democracy of the United States. At this point is when they implemented the blood quantum concept, and it's used as a tool for breaking communities.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right? And I want to tell everybody listening, if anyone's called in about this, stop asking somebody how fucking much Native American they are. When someone says they're white, you don't say how much white are you. If someone says I'm black, they don't say that. But if you say I'm Apache, they're like, what percent? What's your blood percent? It's so deep in our culture, it needs to fucking go away. And it goes back to this tool that was used to break us.
Yeah.
Because now, to me, I personally feel like you're in a culture if you participate in that culture, regardless of what your skin looks like. Or what your blood type says on some document that they made you sign, that they were using as a tool. And what's more sad is it's been used as a tool now to dangle carrots in front of us, like education, right? If you meet this blood quantum, then you can go to school for free, or you can do these things and then assimilate, or you can't participate in and get subsidies from the oil and gas extraction because you're not enough blood quantum this. Like, to me, it's just fucked up.
People actually
And I'm
ask
tired.
that?
Oh, yes. When I tell people I'm Apache, they go, well, how much are you?
What?
That's like the first fucking thing I get asked. And it's very pervasive in indigenous, when people talk about being indigenous. And it never happens with anything else. And it goes back to that point in time. Because that was when this blood quantum idea even came up.
Wow. I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
Well, because I'm operating on the one drop, the law of hypodescension for black people. If you had one drop of black blood, that made you black, right? And so that is something that I grew up with, and there is a lot of pushback on that now, and I'm inclined to be pushing back on it, except for me, how I particularly feel about it is that I think possibly we can agree that there is such a thing as Black American culture. Or can we not say that there is a thing about Black American culture? Because I'm with it. I feel like that's a thing.
I absolutely think there's Black American culture.
Yeah.
And I know that because my girlfriend is black and does not have Black American culture.
She's like, what?
She watched Martin for the first time with me, and that is in my like as some that's deep in like Black American Friday, like these because I'm a '90s baby. Like all of those things are deep in Black American culture. Yeah. She's black and she just didn't come up on that shit. She was eating in jail and doing whatever they do. You know what I'm saying? Like so I know for a fact there's a Black because I could just bump into a black person and guess that they seen Martin. Like just guess. You know what I'm saying? I could make a Martin joke and they'd be like, you know what I'm saying? I think it exists.
Damn, Gina.
So I know it exists.
Yeah, it cracks me up when people say that there's not. They're like, we just kind of nitpick. We just kind of take from other. And I'm like, no, there's definitely Black American culture. Like, really, it's definitely.
So that's how I feel about it, and that was the whole thing of our very first episode of this show was called Black Thanksgiving and Weaponizing White Privilege. And it's because I grew up celebrating Black Thanksgiving and White Christmas, basically, in our house. So we would, for Thanksgiving dinner, we would go to my cousins, and we would eat soul food, and we would have our macaroni and cheese, and our collard greens, and there'd be like a ham and a turkey. You know what I mean? Like, it's like a lot of stuff going on there. And so when I say, oh, I'm black, it's because I feel so strongly connected to my family and my community in that regard, right? So like I feel like there are things, there's just like cultural things you like understand, and it does go beyond, Ian, to your point of like blood quantum of like the amount of blood, because like I did do my DNA test.
You even see that shit playing out with like Elizabeth Warren, where she's like, I'm 164th. She's like, I'm 164th this, and it's interesting, you know, and the hood Pocahontas, you know, you got the president. You got the president calling her Pocahontas, right? Oof. Right? I mean, it's just
he was wilding.
Yes, he was wilding. He was wilding. I just think that I'm 164th, whatever. It's like, dude, this is my identity. I know my family history. You don't, and you should just respect it.
Yeah. But does she know her family history? That's the other thing. It's like,
you know, that's a good question. I just mean it not about Elizabeth Warren. I just mean about myself, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm Apache, I'm Chicano, I can self-identify how I want to, and you should just accept that.
Right.
And not touch my hair unless you ask. Just kidding.
Yeah, you're like, it's so silky.
Well, my hair is soft. It's really soft. You want it down? Yes,
you can touch it. Go ahead, touch it, girl.
One of my favorite rappers said you shouldn't claim the hood until you build a rapport. And I think that's just super important. Like that principle of understanding. Like, don't rep for us if you haven't built a rapport with it. Like if that's not your culture, like to your point, it doesn't matter. Like, do you know anybody over there? Like anybody? Do you have whatever Thanksgiving, like, do you have any type of tie to that? Then if not, just be yourself. Like that's totally fine. If
and knowing the hood should not be the metric. No. Why is that the metric for being black?
So like, I will also say one more time about just for black, because Dominique Christina in our last episode with her was like amazing, but she really said something to me that has stuck with me, and I've been saying it all over the place, that how like for black people, and then we can get into some indigenous stuff with this. It's the same though. It's like it speaks to your point, is that it's like Africa was our mother and she abandoned us essentially because of the slave trade, right? And so how we want to connect with our birth mother is up to us if we're like adopted, right? Yeah. So like nobody has the right to tell you, Allan, how you should wear your hair if you want to feel more connected to your birth mother. And nobody has the right to tell me that I can't like wear my necklace from Uganda and dress my kid in a dashiki if I want to, because like he is also a child of Africa.
Well,
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I think that's the role of the intellectual is what we can do is encourage people based on rational reasons to have different relationships with their mother. So like I can explain to
I
you
love
why
that.
it's better to
That's
have
dope.
this type of relationship with your distant mother than this type of relationship. And we can point to that statistically. We could look at like perms. We could look at whatever type of things and with negative outcomes.
Don't get Allan started on a perm.
God,
not let-
that is the worst thing because it's so fucking disgusting to watch a little girl get her hair. Like, it doesn't make no sense. It just.
But you know why it happened.
Once
We
a
don't.
month,
You know why it happened.
every month for 25,
Yep.
30 years. They say that they've looked at black women cadavers, sliced them open, and they have like layers of chemicals and stuff underneath their scalp.
Yeah.
Burns.
And that's why it's important to have a different relationship with your distant mother than hating her. It's very important that you develop, like we could point to reasons why it's, we can't tell you to do it, but we could be
Right.
like, if not, you might end up with the cadaver of chemical burns on your hair. So like, let's think about ways to not have that type of relationship.
Right.
I'm sure that's true in indigenous
That's
culture
what
as
I'm
well.
thinking
I would
about,
guess
too.
any culture that's kind of been oppressed by the kind of white overstructure has probably experienced a little bit of that self-hate from not being able to adapt
Of
fast
course.
enough.
Of course it is. And I think, this is growing up in the 90s here in Denver and being Chicano, is you're Mexican American and you're, the border crossed us, that whole concept. And then there were all these immigrants moving here from Mexico, like deep in Mexico, Zacatecas, Durango, or whatever. And it led to this kind of like self-hatred, like racism to Mexicans because white people were now being racist to you as the Mexican American. And so instead of, so we went through this whole cultural shift of like how, we went back to trying to learn our languages, trying to bring it in, trying to be a people together and fight back against that oppression. But in the 90s, it was a very tumultuous time about who you were and how that acted. And I can still remember, for example, like you're talking about cultural relevance, an experience that I had with Julie Gonzalez, who just got elected state senator.
Hey.
We were there for Dia de los Muertos, which is the most beautiful. It's such a beautiful holiday, right? You sit down and you ask, but you can share that culture with other people. I could say, tell me on the Dia de los Muertos, even though you're not Mexican, I can say, you have loved ones that passed. Yeah. What was their favorite food? Right? And the whole, tell me their memories of them. And it's about bringing and conjuring their spirit back through your memories. Yeah. But she was, painting my face for Dia de los Muertos, and I just had this immense connection, having memories that she helped elicit that I hadn't thought about in 20 fucking years easily.
Yeah, I think that's key. We gotta reestablish those relationships and kind of understand what was lost. I think we as people that have been colonized don't recognize the value that we lost. I think sometimes we disregard it as kind of for the better in so many ways, kind of good. Now we have the new shit. That's or it's the same thing as with gentrification, right? You're constantly chasing 5 Points is trash. Let's go to Park Hill. Matter of fact, let's go to Green Valley. And meanwhile, you don't realize what you've lost when you kind of give up something to this greater power. I think we should Dia that's a great example. You know what I mean? I wish African Americans had smoother connections. It's very interesting for us because I was joking the other day. Somebody was we should decolonize business attire. And I was I'll pull up in a dashiki. And I was I don't even know if a dashiki is appropriate for my decolonization process because I don't know where the fuck I'm from. I'm guessing. I'm just guessing. I'm from West Africa, so probably a dashiki. It would be nice if we had some easier ties to kind of lean on with where we come from, what that means.
They're being centered here, me being from here and my family being from here. And I see what you're saying.
That's where the historians come in.
Yes.
That's why I'm here. I mean, I specialize in our history before America. And you would just be surprised at how little we know, about how little we know about African history. Mm-hmm. People don't know about Moors. People don't know just about how, many of our cultures did worship one God, that there were aspects of Christianity all throughout the continent, that it wasn't just introduced to us through slavery. Right now I'm doing I'm typing up a series on Yoruba deities because a lot of us don't. Michael B. Jordan said in his interview that, African or black people don't have mythology. And I'm you a lie. you know, and I would love to add him on Instagram, like, once I get this post done. But I mean, it's stuff like that we don't know about.
Yeah, Neil deGrasse Tyson was just on Sway in the Morning, like the Sway dude from the
Yeah.
and he was pointing to the fact that we know so little about Africa besides what is there. Like he was trying to point out was he was pointing out the size of Africa itself. It's 5 times the size of the United States, whatever. And he was like, with the amount of genetic diversity, if you're looking for something in particular, something special, a special human trait, you're more likely statistically to find it in Africa than anywhere else in the world. He was like, so you'll find the fastest sprinter in Africa. You'll find the tallest person in Africa. You'll find the shortest person. Statistically speaking, you're most likely to find them there. He's like, you're most likely to find the most intelligent person. You're most likely to find the dumbest person. You're most likely to, and we just don't attribute that kind of diversity and wealth of resources to Africa. Like we just don't have that construct. It's a dark. They refer to it as a dark continent. Like if the lights off, like what the fuck does that mean?
Right.
You know, like what?
And just imagine if every single example of person that you had, they all have their own history.
Yeah.
So like one of my dreams is to go to Kenya and actually go to the library in Kenya and actually just look in the archives. And I don't want to go to South Africa.
Let's start you a go-go for that.
No, we're working on that's my next project. Shut up.
But yes, I do. I want to.
All right, fine. I'm gonna put it out there. Here it comes. You guys ready? This is the one I'm working on with Tamra Banks, who is one of our Emmy Award-winning guests that does a lot of filmmaking, and we are hoping to do. We have a film project that we're hoping to do in 2019, and it is the working title is Black to Africa.
I can dig it.
Yeah, but so you should be part of that too. That's what we want to do.
I want
we
to
have
go
a whole
to
thing.
libraries. Like I have my list.
Yes.
Of like 5 libraries I want to visit.
So we'll talk more about that later, but I do want you to know that is something that I am working on. That I'm working on for people of the diaspora to be able to go and do. So anyway, so that's in the works. Just so you know. So if you want to be part of that, I would love that, Jameeka.
My God. I just could not imagine like the joy I get from going to different libraries here, like going to a library there.
Yeah.
And then, like, usually as professionals, we're kind of allowed behind the scenes. I would lose it.
Yeah.
That's how I felt when I went to Teotihuacan.
Where's that at?
Teotihuacan is just north of New Mexico, or Mexico City.
Cool.
And I climbed to the top of the Pyramid of the Sun. And the thing is like, they were talking about in 0 AD when Jesus was born, they said like 300,000 people lived in this valley. Right? And so, you know, that's the decolonizing that you're talking about, right? It's like, I took me going, and my mom talked to me a lot about it, and my dad talked to me a lot about it. It wasn't until I went and took Native American Studies in college, and we really start to learn the anthropology and that kind of stuff, that I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
I had no idea.
One thing I've been...
Hohokam, all these places.
I'm trying to switch in so many ways. A lot of my life involves journalism, and I'm trying to transition to a lot of academic stuff, to be quite honest. Because I think one of the things I've taken issue with in my studies so far is the Enlightenment is late. Like the Western world is mad because they treat these questions as if they've approached this new. To your point, there was 300,000 people. The Western world had just come out of a dark age when you get to the Enlightenment. That's in year 1500. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, we'll get a little behind, brother. Yeah. You know, like, because they're answering questions like, what does it mean to exist? What does it mean to be? How do we reason? And it's like, Buddha answered that literally about 3,000 years ago. Like, we've talked about this. Yes. Like, what do you... Yeah. And then the arrogance to, like, supplant this over every other culture's understanding. Like, oh, no, that's backwards. We just came up with the answer. Right. So then you have this imperialism, and it's just like, what the... I think I want to tackle... It's long story short. That's why my mind has been on academics so much lately, is because just the arrogance coming out of like kind of Western institutions about those questions. And when you go and you look and you're like, wait, so you telling me 300? You know, like in year 0, because we acting like when Jesus came, everything. You know,
it's even simple questions like, well, is the Earth flat? And we're like, are you kidding me? Have you ever studied any ancient manuscripts, and they told you that the Earth was not flat?
Yeah.
But you were so insular that you just took it and ran with it, rather than actually trying to maybe get another point of view. But okay, have fun with that.
So I was just in Florida for vacation, and I went to tour this historic estate that was in an indigenous area, and they had a case of anthropological things, and they were like, they had a stone that they could trace all the way back to like near Alaska, and it was in Florida, right? Yeah. But when they train you to think in school that these indigenous people lived in these huts and didn't interact in a globalized way. Across the entire continent. Yeah.
They thought differently. Their worldview was fun. I think we don't give enough credit to that. It's a fundamentally different experience of the world, and we don't give enough credit to that. One of the recent examples, I was listening to some like really smart TED Talk guy talk about essentially ayahuasca in microdoses, and there was this concept that we have this revolutionary idea of how to bend the way we construct reality, and then it was like, oh, basically, you're just talking about this tradition of tripping that's in every culture around the world. Like, that's all, but you're acting as if this is some new, like, we can find new realities through substances.
Well, DMT is a pretty strong hallucinogen, by comparison to peyote buttons and things, but still.
Yeah, point being that they're trying to microdose it, right? And that's peyote is the natural kind of acceptable version. They already figured that out. This is how you do that. Like, you coming up with microdosing is no new concept. Like, oh, we want these kind of phenomenons, but we want them in a like.
I saw a recent person speak about ritual and the lack of ritual in our society, and that's why drug addiction exists, because people are now using that as their ritual. I can't wait to get off work and smoke my cigarette. I can't wait to get off work and smoke my whatever. Yeah. And we're missing this like cultural significance in our society, and that perhaps if we can do those if we can introduce that back into society, we might see some mental illness dissipate.
Even alcohol was really about ceremony and ritual and celebration.
Right.
The people who invented alcohol, the Arabic people, they outlawed it a long, long time ago and just used it medicinally. For tinctures and things,
Denver Public Health just put out, and people can localize it. Like Denver Public Health just put out their report on depression. It's like 1 in 8 people at any given time in Denver is experiencing depression. All right, so that's what they say. With that being the case, it's like that means that's a lot of people. They list like 4 of the most densely populated neighborhoods, and they're like that's more people than all of these places combined. And it's like, to your point, it's like what this is a crisis. We really need to think about what are the conditions that's a public health crisis. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like this is the mental health suicide. Is health. This 76% of people that commit suicide are men. I found that out in the city of Denver just the other. This is a crisis. This is bad. The dude basically went on to just put it all in context. It's like 93% of the prisoners are men. Men are represent like 80-something% of homelessness, blah 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 blah, substance abuse, suicide. A man a minute globally dies to suicide. This is a crisis. Yeah. This is like immediately
in Denver, in Colorado, more kids are committing suicide than are dying in car accidents.
I have a friend who works for the coroner office, and he was telling me that a 4th grader killed himself.
That's astounding.
And I was just like, and you just know it's wrong because I was in 4th grade and nobody was killing themselves, right? Like this is just, there's something going on. There is.
So in the interest of trying to sort of sort some of this out and think about like what we're going to do, if anything, I don't know. I mean, there are so many things wrong with our society. And happy Thanksgiving. No, just kidding. But like,
Thanksgiving is a perfect example, right? You got your drunk uncle. You're like, more people kill themselves on holidays.
Yeah. No, they do. Like, I feel like there's a lot of sickness.
Yeah. And actually, Ian said something before we went on mic about Thanksgiving essentially being a harvest celebration, which every society has, except we don't have a harvest. And that's an example of how we have like the vestiges of ritual, but we're in like a ritual free
because food just is globalized
society.
And comes around.
Yeah,
exactly.
You just get it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that's the dependence on Christianity in Black community for a fact. Like if we remove Christianity, we have no ritual, we have no celebration, we have no holidays. Yeah. So I'm always encouraging people to think to create their own holidays. Somebody created the holidays we have. As it is, I don't know why we can't create new ones.
I feel like let's create Election Day.
I love growing up in West Denver. I grew up right next to Little Saigon, and I celebrate my 3 favorite holidays: 4th of July, Chinese New Year, which is just so much fun. Cracking. And one of my best friends is Persian, and we celebrate Persian New Year, and it's about spring, and it's on the equinox, and it's a ritual there. Yeah. So there's a lot of trash talk on people. I think about like astrology, astronomy, and that concept, but that's like this like deep seated cycle that people have been observing forever.
Yeah.
And I think we need to have a little more respect than that. I think a lot of people jump real quick on people for having some sort of astrological understanding. They're like, oh, it's going to be a full moon. And they're like, yeah, nice work, hippie.
Oh, I think that's terrible.
I'm like Gemini in the house right now.
Yeah. Do you know your sun?
All 14
moon, and ascendant sign?
Yes, I do actually. My rising sign is Cancer. My Mars is in Leo. My Venus is also in Cancer, which makes me a lover.
Oh, my sun is Leo, and then my moon and rising are in Aquarius.
Oh,
you're deep.
That's why we like each other, girl. It's the air signs. Okay, so all right. So the only thing I would like to say as we're kind of wrapping this up is it is Thanksgiving, and some of our listeners will be getting ready to go see their families right now, which sometimes can be somewhat traumatic, I feel like. My family's coming in tomorrow, and it's gonna be wonderful. Hey, Dad. They're always sending me cease and desists. They're like, never mention us.
Aww.
But I do have a family, and they're coming tomorrow. And I guess I'm just thinking about I don't want to say we have to end this on a positive note, because sometimes we don't. Sometimes we have like, yo, that Sonia Gupta part 2 episode. That was just us just like whispering about the apocalypse and how we were all going to die, and we were all like freaked out. And that was like the whole episode. It was terrible.
We got that out of the way earlier on this one.
Yeah, that was done at the beginning. So I just want to think about, I guess, the idea of ritual. I want, if you can, and if you can't, that's okay. But I just wanted to think of something that maybe we are thankful for, that we are grateful for. Is that too corny and ridiculous?
No, I
don't think so.
You do want to do it, but you got to tighten up at the disco, Danette. Get over here.
I want to say things we're thankful for too.
Because you got to get on the microphone. I love it. I love it. You going first?
Sure.
All right.
I'm thankful for my children and my health, and for all the families I got to help by passing out food for this holiday. And I have a Native American friend who always says that she's thankful for the people who pick the food and like the workers and stuff that make sure that the food gets where we need to get and eat it. Because I don't have a harvest.
You do though. You have some herbs going on.
I do, girl. I was crying.
I heard about that. I know you do, because we ate your peppers. We put them in the chili. Remember those jalapenos? Delicious. All right, thank you, Danette. Danette's available for bookings. Who wants to go next?
Why'd y'all look at me? Was it just a natural progression?
Yeah. I looked at her and she looked at you.
Oh, okay. Oh my goodness, I'm thankful for so much. I'm thankful for life, just even being here. I lost my mom last year, and so like every day that I'm here, I'm just so grateful. I'm thankful for anyone whom I'm able to help. Like, I'm just a helper by nature. I volunteer with the Red Cross, and so I'll be on call for Thanksgiving, and it's just amazing to be able to help somebody else. I'm really grateful for the opportunity to do that. I'm thankful for my daughter, who keeps me in line, or she at least tries to. And I'm just thankful for family and friends and the opportunity to share information. I mean, I think that's really important. I think it's something we kind of take for granted. And the opportunity to consume information. Because so many places don't even allow, the kind of open sharing and swapping of ideas. So I'm thankful for that too.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
So many of Native rituals open and close with the same thing of gratitude to the 4 directions and the sun and the earth and our brother animals and those things. And I have great, pride and respect for all of them. I think my grandma is my favorite person. I'm grateful for her. She's 84. She's still rocking it. I will say, for people who are like dealing with stress, one thing that my mother really talked to me about stress, like right before elections and things that stress me out, but maybe it's going to deal with your family, is to get ready meticulously. And the self-care of meticulously loving yourself is a great place to go back into to restore your energy before you deal with everyone else bombarding you. And I think the Dia de los Muertos painting or getting your braids done by somebody are those rituals of self-care that I think are really empowering in culture.
Stop.
Yes.
I'm thankful for the opportunity to kind of like understand things better. I've been like really into trying to get a better grasp of everything going on around me, including myself. And I'm really thankful lately to have the opportunity to like continue on that path. Similar to self-care. I'm really into like promoting self-care right now, like you are. I think it's important. I'm thankful that people get to do that, and I'm glad I have the opportunity to do that like every day.
I'm grateful to the wonderful people I share my home with, my 2 kids and my wife and my cat who has a UTI, which we're working on right now.
Cranberry juice. You can't been. Oh, sorry. Not appropriate, Rebecca.
Just grateful to community. I have a really great spiritual community in Denver that I don't talk about a lot, but we've been talking about ritual and stuff like that. It's really important to me. And getting to do this show and activist communities that I hang around and just everything. Just a lot of good people with good energy around me. Yeah.
I'm so thankful for my husband and my family and my son, because even with everything that's been so hard, you know, it's still really beautiful. So I'm really thankful for that. And because this is sort of our last episode of the season, I'm thankful that Dr. Gregory Diggs came into my life and into our lives. And so we wouldn't be here without him. And he sat at this table that we're sitting at now the past 2 Thanksgivings with my family. So it means a lot to me to be here. And I'm thankful that his brother, Brian Diggs, was in our home just this weekend. He came and visited. And I'm just really grateful for the community that I've been building in Denver, and that people have been so open and welcoming to me. So I want to say thank you for that too. And now I'm crying and shit.
We're thankful for you, Rebecca.
Thank you so much for just being a vessel, you know, to have these somewhat difficult conversations and being willing to put yourself out there and put so much of yourself into this. So that's a lot. It's taxing, but you doing it, girl. I might put another $10 in your Indiegogo.
And huge shouts out to Dr. Diggs, man. He's been ever more relevant in my life because of the life that I'm living. And it's just been on my mind a lot too. Because as I go further, had it not been for him, I'll be still working at a coffee shop, like on God. Like that would be like literally my life. So shouts out to Diggs. Like it's never a bad time to just like shout dude out.
Yeah. All right. Well, amen to that.
Yeah. I'll end it on that, on a toast to Greg.
To Dr. Diggs, yo. Put your glasses up. Hey, Dr. Diggs. He did love his wine for real.
Off Color is a presentation of Tan Tigers Productions, hosted by Rebecca Henderson, produced by me, Jameeka, music also by me. Follow us on Twitter at Off Color Pod, on Facebook at Off Color Podcasts. Check us out on the web at offcolorpod.com. And make sure to subscribe to us on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, and anywhere else you get your podcasts. Thanks for listening.